Do you remember the year of 2014? This was a booming year for a lot of tech companies. It was the rise of fitness trackers and smartwatches to promote healthy habits. Netflix and Hulu were all the rage with video and TV streaming. Of course, we can never forget the pop culture movements of the Ice Bucket Challenge and the most favorable Katy Perry's Dark Horse music video going viral. However, as the need for emerging technology rose, one event made the news that year that changed everything. A massive cyber breach that evolved how security is done with retail stores today. Hi, and welcome, Cyber Defenders. My name is Rena Schultz, and I will be your aide today as we guide you through exploring different learning opportunities through CyberSpeak Labs. During your time here, it's important for you to know that the lab is designed for us to collaborate and learn. Today, we are going to put on our lab coats and learn about a massive data breach that went undetected for almost 6 months. We will be looking deeper through the Defender microscope to dissect and understand anatomy of Home Depot's cyber incident of 2014. Defenders, as we continue to learn more about this incident, it's important to think and hypothesize on the following. What security mechanic should have been enforced to prevent this? What do you think the lessons learned would have been? Is this data breach an item that is still applicable in today's cyber defense day and age? Now that we understand today's lab assignment, let's put on our white coats and enter the lab to learn. As we all know, it is the year 2014. More specifically, it was September 2nd of 2014. Summer was coming to an end, and retail stores were starting to promote their fall decor. Home Depot that year was a reputable retail store across the United States and Canada. They branded themselves and marketed themselves as well to be the go-to store for home improvement projects and a place to buy seasonal ornaments. Since summer was ending, Home Depot was promoting back to school and in their famous end of summer deals. These promotions often included discounts to home improvement items, gardening supplies, and other seasonal products depending on the location of the store. With Home Depot having a strong brand and consumer market, they kept themselves current with technology and tech trends. A point-of-sale system, also known as a POS, these systems would allow customers and employees be able to have a more modern feel with interactive touchscreens at these POS stations. Integrating this type of technology in retail stores introduced a more efficient way for management staff to track sales, customer engagement, and overall inventory from different stores. Since Home Depot during that time had global locations, this provided insight to sales and business analytics at a global level. These metrics can be used to cater towards consumer wants and needs and to help a retail store to keep up with the current shopping trends. With Home Depot supporting the tech and modernizing trends during this time, they also established an IT department. Public records do not state what their IT team consisted of, but we can assume here in the lab, it was most likely have people that were hardware and customer support. With it being September 2nd and the promotional season still ongoing, everything appeared to be business as usual that day. But it wasn't until a few days later, on September 6th, this was the day where Home Depot did not know that their business would be making cyber history. They later will gain a title as to having one of the most impactful and recognized retail breaches of 2014. September 6th, it was a warm, mostly clear sky type of day. It was normal. However, even though the weather was perfect, there was a storm brewing inside the Home Depot headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia. According to an article from Krebs on Security, it states that on September 6, Home Depot started to receive a rising call of concerns regarding fraudulent credit card activity. Some of these calls were originating from well-known reputable banks. What made these reports more interesting was that some of the banks were claiming to have identified to trace the fraudulent activity as early as of May of 2014. With all the same conclusion from all these different reports, it was that the last authorized and known purchase from these users was from Home Depot. With there being a pattern of numerous reports and claims of fraudulent activity, Curbs on Security reported that Home Depot had started to open a case with law enforcement. Now, this is where both law enforcement and Home Depot collaborated to investigate the unusual trend of fraud activity. Curbs on Security also reported that as the investigation continued, the investigators found potential root cause. This root cause resulted to an information system that was critical for their global sales and consumer base to function. This system was Home Depot's point-of-sale system. Curbs on Security highlighted that investigators discovered an emerging malware referred to as Black POS. Security researchers who studied and reverse engineered the malware had disclosed to the cyber community that this malware is known to target point-of-sale machines, specifically ones that are running on a Windows operating system. Security researchers have also disclosed that Black POS has been identified in the wild in early 2013 or late 2012. In fact, this malware gained its popularity due to this being discovered in another large global retail store, also known as Target. Unlike Home Depot, where the discovery happened prior to the holiday season, Target was infected with the Black POS malware as of early as November of 2013. Target claims that they were unaware of the malware until December later of that year. Threat actor, or actors, were able to compromise one of Target's web servers. Once the web server was compromised, the malicious entity was able to travel through Target's network until they found systems running POS software. From there, the entity was able to deploy the Black POS malware successfully. Multiple articles state that more than 70 million email addresses, phone numbers, and other personal information was stolen by this threat. In fact, Target had offered 1 year of free credit monitoring to all U.S. customers who were impacted by this data breach. According to CNN, sadly, even though Target had offered free credit monitoring service, Target was still part of a lawsuit. This lawsuit was settled for Target to pay up to $6.75 million in fees, apart from any other damages that Target had originally paid for due to the fraudulent activity. But who would create and develop a malware that would cause potential impact to thousands of people and potentially cost a company millions of dollars to fix? Now, defenders, before we can really deep dive into more of this, it is time for us to take a break before we research and analyze more of this question. We will return to dive deeper into the home data breach and the developers behind this impactful malware. See you soon. Like what we discovered before, this malware has been seen active as of 2013 or late 2012s. Now, threat researchers claim that the original developer was created by a 23-year-old named Alexander, who resided in Russia. There are theories that the motivation behind the creation of Black POS stemmed from Alexander's involvement with cybercrime groups in the underground cyber market to make money from stolen information. Some cyber theorists believe that it was because the developer might have wanted to seek a challenge or continue to build their underground brand and reputation. It was never publicly documented as to what the true motivation was or how much money Alexander made from the distribution of the Black POS malware. But researchers identified the malware to be sold on dark forums for $1,000 to $2,000 US. and was additionally advertised to bypass security mechanics due to the malware to be masqueraded as an antivirus security tool. However, the malware variant that Alexander developed was not originally intended to target POS systems. A new variant had emerged later in 2013. This was the one that caused the widespread impact to retail stores. As this variant had emerged, it was discovered that a 17-year-old who went by the online handle name of Re4 modified and enhanced the malware that Alexander had originally released. According to Trend Micro, this new variant was identified to be found on POS systems prior to even deployed in a retail environment. If this was not discovered in advance, this would have resulted to Black POS being introduced in a retail environment, resulting to another huge brand and financial loss for that retail store. Now, as a disclaimer for all listeners and defenders, it is important that you research your country's humanitarian laws and other hacking and cyber activity considerations. Failure to adhere to laws and other administrations can lead to punishment and other obligations suited for the crime. You can find more information about your country's guidelines and laws by visiting their government, legal database, or other cybersecurity agency's website. It is also advised to discuss with legal professionals for official guidance and break down with these laws for further questions. I am not a legal counselor, but I do like to promote safety standards and importance of awareness to understand how to find information and the limitations that are enforced by the law. Now, to continue where we're at in our research, just like Alexander, Re4 is also known to reside in Russia. Cyber researchers have publicly released that this new variant was the one seen with Target's data breach and also the one from Home Depot's. However, Target and Home Depot had unrelated ways for the threat actor or actors to gain access to their network. Target, where the web application was compromised, Home Depot disclosed their attack originated from a compromised third-party vendor. Home Depot did not disclose to the press and public who the third-party vendor was and how they were breached. However, Home Depot did disclose the compromise led to a threat actor obtaining credentials from the compromised third-party vendor account. This had allowed the threat actor to gain access to Home Depot's environment. InfoSecurity magazine states that the compromised account allowed the threat actor to elevate permissions to be able to deploy the Black POS malware onto Home Depot's POS systems. The Black POS variant that Re4 released had two primary stages in its attack chain. The first stage focused on establishing persistence in a compromised environment. This is done by having the malware laterally move through SMB channels in the company's network. The malware is designed to find a server that has an open port to communicate outbound connections with. The second stage is designed to collect stolen information and use the compromised server to send the information through an outbound file transfer protocol to a file server hosted by the threat actor. Additionally, the variant is sophisticated and designed to exfiltrate data during business hours. This is because the threat actor does not want to raise suspicion of outbound network activity outside of normal working hours. According to threat researchers, majority of the attack chain should have been demonstrated in both Home Depot and Target's data breach. Upon investigation, it was discovered that the malware seen not active in just September or July or May, but it was seen as early as of April 2014 in Home Depot's environment. In addition to this malware being active for around 5 months, Home Depot disclosed that approximately 53 million email addresses, in addition to 56 million credit and debit card numbers, were stolen. Similar to the approach Target took, Home Depot offered free identity protection and credit monitoring service to any customers that were affected by the breach from April to on. BreachSense had released a breach cost estimate regarding the attack on Home Depot. Home Depot did not disclose the financial cost to remediate the cyber breach attack, but BreachSense had estimated for damages to customers to include unauthorized charges associated with identity theft to be $17.5 million. This is in addition to another $134.5 million to similar fraudulent charging to other companies and banks as well. However, again, no public estimates were shown for how much legal and other PR costs that would have been taken during this time. Home Depot did provide their own remediation steps and publicly announced to ensure that this malware is no longer present in their environment. However, there are many theories as to who was behind the attack on Home Depot. Some people assume it was a bored teenager. Others relate it back to a specific threat actor group who was financially motivated. Or others who think that whoever was behind the Home Depot breach was also involved in a similar breach from Target. Even though who did it is still the question that remains, there are other questions to consider, defenders and lab coats. As defenders, it is our job to learn about past breaches or cyber events and understand how did they occur and what could have been done to prevent this. Even though events like Home Depot happened over 10 years ago, a lot of lessons are still to be learned to this day. Security is most likely considered different with Home Depot today than it was 10 years ago. Security back then, we could assume, was not a primary focus until a major data breach happened. However, what are some questions and takeaways you got from this research today? Are there things you will consider differently, not knowing to what happened with Home Depot? If you're curious, here are my laboratory questions and ideas on how this could be mitigated for the future. The first question I'm going to highlight is around third-party vendors. Third-party relations is not uncommon at all, especially with bigger retail stores like Home Depot or Target, where they might sell other vendor products on the floor, like makeup or even food. I would like to know what information is outlined in the third-party contract that surrounds cyber, or if there is anything about cybersecurity, such as if the vendor became compromised, what would they owe to the third-party person if they were impacted? So in your opinion, was it really Home Depot at fault here? Or should have the third-party vendor provide some financial compensation to Home Depot since they did not have the proper security controls in place? Yes, Home Depot is at fault to some degree without enforcing least privilege or multi-factor authentication features, but I am curious as to what happened with the vendor's relation with Home Depot after the incident. Did they have to get a new contract? Did the third party have to provide evidence that their compromised environment is no longer compromised? Again, was this even outlined in their original contract? I also wonder if Home Depot reviewed firewall policies for servers and other information systems in their architecture and identify if any additional ports or network protocols should be disabled rather than allowed. This would have prevented external FTP communications from that threat actor outbound to their C2 hosted server. I also wonder, did they start segmenting systems onto different firewalls or even start implementing more advanced network segmentation? I'm also curious if they enforced or started to enforce encryption shortly after the incident for any outbound communication and not allow unencrypted channels like a file transfer protocol. Lastly, from the trends rising with Target and Home Depot in 2014, with them being breached, do you think other massive retail stores started to consider cyber mechanics or policies to prevent an impactful financial and brand loss? This is why learning from others is so important. A cyber community is filled with passionate cyber defenders like yourself who are experts in different corners of the field. Let me know what you think. What are your takeaways from this lab assignment today? Thank you all for joining me in the laboratory today and becoming cyber defenders in lab coats. I am Marina Schultz, your lab aide and podcast host for this episode. If you have any suggestions for guest collaborations or cyber topics, you could submit them by going to cyberspeakslabs.com. Thank you all, and I look forward to seeing you in the lab again soon.